Hello everyone and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show, where I try to help you spend your wine dollars wisely. How do I do that? I review the wines, I grade them, and then it's up to you. I review, it's up to you. And I'm going to just continue, why not? Why not continue on the theme of Valentine's Day? Especially if you're a wine drinker, that's why you're watching the program, right? You are thinking wine. Now, we did talk about Pinot Noir, and I did 2 episodes. Now, those 2 episodes, I found a couple of Pinots that were actually worth the money. That would be a nice play. And I still think Pinot Noir is a great play. If you don't know what your sweetheart likes for wine, and you're just taking a chance, I think Pinot Noir is a good play, especially if you know, at least that you know they like wine, right? That's one thing you have to know, right? You don't bring a bottle of wine and find out they don't like it. For instance, my wife, as I've already said, wouldn't care if I had a bottle of wine or not. She does like Pinot, she does like Riesling, but it's not something that she really cares that much about. But no doubt, with all the wine drinkers out there, your person of interest may enjoy wine. So we're going to look at 3 different possibilities for that special day. Whether you have them over to your house and you're cooking a meal and you want to bring wine, or you're bringing one to the restaurant and you don't mind paying the corkage. Make sure, by the way, if you're doing that, it's a more expensive one, because it doesn't make any sense to have a $10, $12 bottle of wine and pay $15 corkage on that wine. That being said, let's say you're doing something at home. Let's say the theme is seafood. Okay? Now, you got to remember, I have not tried. There's only one wine here that I've tried, so I'm just going along with this as a theme, as possibly doing Valentine's Day. Will these wines work for that? Let's say you're going to do seafood. Let's say you're going to do mussels, shellfish, shrimp, whatever it may be in that direction. Perhaps you want to go with the Domaine du Terriquet Chenin Chardonnay from Côtes de Gascogne, and this is the Grassa family. Believe it or not, these people have been family owned since 1912. Now think about that. 1912, they have been in business as a family. The winery. That's crazy. What that tells me is they know what they're doing. The 2 kids right now, I think one is Remy. I think I wrote it down. Remy and another, the 2 boys are running it now. Their father got Winemaker of the Year in 1987. They grow they're sustainable farming, all estate fruit. So they have and they do all the bottling, everything on the estate. So these guys really are into their wine. They know what they're doing, and that's a big deal. That's a big deal when it comes to wine. Is a nice strong family business. Nice little gold color on this. Let's give it a little rinse. I've never tried this wine. I got it as a sample and in the mail, and so I'm very interested in trying an interesting combination, really, if you think about it. Chardonnay and Chenin Blanc from Gascogne, which is a really cool region in France. It's really up and and over the last 10 years, it's really come a long way. And they do a lot of Uni Blanc, Colombard combinations, Petit, Mansing, also another wine grape that they grow down there. And so these kind of guys are kind of mavericks. And their father planted Chardonnay. I think his grandfather planted Chardonnay and Chenin Blanc in the Côtes de Gascogne, which you don't see a lot down there. So let's see what we get on the nose. Now in the notes, and I'm just going off the notes, I don't, it doesn't mean anything to me until I try it, but it said this is a great shellfish wine. Get a little bit of that wooliness that you get off of Chenin Blanc, also known in the Loire Valley as Vouvray, for those of you that didn't know that. Get a little bit of that butteriness from the Chardonnay. There's an interesting, a popcorn. I get like buttered popcorn. Big time butter popcorn with a little bit of the kernel. You know what I'm talking about? So I get buttered popcorn, a little bit of wooliness, a little bit of wet stone coming through. Very interesting nose. Let's see what we get on the palate. I'm curious about this. By the way, it's $12. $12. So, I said don't chintz on Valentine's Day. But let's say you're married, okay, you got a budget, you're with your wife, you know she likes white wine, you're going to have shellfish, you know, yeah, that's okay. You might be able to do that because maybe you're going to have more than one bottle of wine. Maybe this is with your meal. Maybe you're going to have a rosé, sparkling rosé or something like that along with that, which hopefully I get a sparkling episode put up before Valentine's Day. The cool thing about doing these like 3 episodes is you guys, none of you are going to think about what you're going to buy until either Friday night or Saturday. I mean, that's just the way it plays out. We're all procrastinators, right? I mean, we're all busy. We live in a fast-paced society. So, you know, we know how that is. Okay, let's see what we get on the palate. I like that wine. It has some roundness from the Chardonnay. You can get that. Almost a little bit of a buttery factor. But then the citrus play comes in. You get that lemon zest, a little wet stone on the backside, kind of steely on the finish, which I really like. But at the same time, there's just a hint of sweetness on the mid palate that comes through from the Chenin Blanc. A little bit of wooliness from the, and that's really a characteristic of Chenin Blanc, is it will have that kind of woolly, like wet wool, which isn't a bad thing. It's just it's more of a feeling, I guess, or just the essence of that. And maybe you've never had a wool sweater or whatever, and you've licked it or you've smelled it or whatever. That's the essence. But this is very fresh, very clean, very steely. I can see this playing really well with mussels, clams, oysters. It's a beauty, and yet it's not so bone dry that a person that's not into that kind of wine, those bone dry Sauvignon Blancs, Sancerres, things like that, it has enough roundness on the mid palate that it really, really plays into a lot of different palate preferences. I mean, I really like this wine. The wet stone element comes through on the finish. Really clean, long finish. I mean, it's hanging on. You get a little bit of that buttered popcorn thing going on right towards the back end. But good balance, nice and crisp, but at the same time has that fullness. I really like it. I'm going to go B+, A- on that wine. $12. That's a really good play. That's a great, that's a really killer bottle of wine. Just saying. All right. B+. Dunham Cellars 2013 Shirley Mays Columbia Valley Chardonnay Lewis Estate Vineyard, $25. Now, you gotta throw a Chardonnay into a Valentine's episode because you know what? Chardonnay is still the #1 selling varietal in the United States, and I wouldn't be surprised if 85% of you out there are with somebody that likes Chardonnay. And you know, we're out of that ABC anything but Chardonnay era. Thank goodness for that. But Dunham Cellars, I'm trying this. It's kind of a sad story. Eric Dunham passed away not too long ago. They found him dead in Cannon Beach, Oregon. It's really sad. Nice guy. I never met him personally, but everybody that I've talked to that has met him, you know, they were really devastated. I mean, he's a super nice guy, very talented winemaker, and anyway, not to bring that up on a Valentine's Day episode, but he makes great wine. This is at his hands, and I've never tried Dunham Chardonnay, at least not in recent memory. $25, okay. Now here we're talking about not being chintzy on Valentine's Day. $25 for a Chardonnay, you know, isn't super expensive, but depending on what we get, it could be the right play. Let's see what we get on the nose. Okay. Again, buttered pop. That's so weird. This is like butterscotch, popcorn, butter thing going on. Big time. It reminds me of one of those Lifesaver butterscotch candies. It has that same kind of smell. A little bit of apple and pear in the background. Let's see what we get on palate. Wow, 2 in a row. Very nice balance on the Chardonnay. You always worry about a lot of oak, you know. That I mean, obviously some people like it, and if you know your sweetheart, you know that they like oak on their Chardonnay. They like pulling splinters out of their gums. Well, then go for it. You can find Chardonnays just like that. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't mind a little bit of oak on my Chard. This one strikes a nice balance. Get that nice buttery characteristic that you get from the oak. It's got a little bit of tropical fruit. I get a little pineapple and pear coming through, but it's very balanced. I mean, it's not a heavy Chardonnay. I could see this playing with some shellfish because it isn't big. It's got nice elegance, which I really like, and it hangs on the palate. I get that buttery butterscotch thing going on in the palate. But again, I wouldn't call it by any stretch of the imagination sweet, just very delicate Chardonnay, which I find very interesting. I really like this Chardonnay because of the balance, because it doesn't go heavy. It's not too light. I think there's nuances in this wine as it warms up a little bit more. Will come out. As I told you many times, I drink wine at the temperature, maybe just a skosh under the temperature. I know most of you drink it because what's the use of reviewing a wine at a temperature that nobody's going to drink it? And I can preach and get on my soapbox all day about drinking these wines at room temperature, but guess what? I know you're not going to. I don't drink my whites at room temperature because they're not what I like to have refreshing with my wine. I do like them a little warmer than most people. I don't stick them in the fridge and get them really cold. I have my temperature controlled fridge in my office that I keep them at a temperature that I feel is right for the episodes that I do, and I drink them that way. So just this is such a delicate, but it's like, it reminds me of a book that you start reading, and at first you're like, I don't know if I'm going to like this, and before you know it, you're just so engrossed in that book, and before you know it, the book's over, and you realize, yeah, it started out kind of, but man, the intensity, the guts of that book were there, and it was just a great book in the end. And the finish was just right, and the finish is just right on this. It lingers, but it's not super heavy, but it's not super weak. This is a great Chardonnay. I'm going to go A on this Chard. I just think it has ageability. I really believe that. Yeah, the pineapple and apple notes integrate with a little bit of pear, integrate perfectly with the butter notes. Very, very good. If you like a big bombastic Chard, you're not going to like this. If you're a Rombauer fan, you might like elements of this wine. But you see, I just think this is it has a Burgundian edge to it. You know, if you drink white Burgundy, a lot of times you're like, what is it? You know, it takes you a while to understand what it is that they're trying to shoot for with this wine. And this has those elements. It has that subtlety that is really, really special. I'm liking that wine. It's an A. I love it. Now we're going to totally switch gears to a Brachetto de Quai. What is that? Well, Brachetto is a grape. It comes from the Piedmont region of Italy. Piedmont up in the Piemonte, as some of you might say. This is a Pineto Brachetto de Quai. Marenco is the producer. Marenco, Pineto, Brachetto de Quai. Brachetto de Quai is the appellation. In '96, it became its own appellation, or AOP or AOC. Appellation Origin Control or Appellation Origin Protégé. There is a label. Now this is an 06. This is one I've had around for a while. You will not be able to get the 06, but I'm pretty confident this is an amazing wine. This is the one I have tried on many occasions. And we had a tradition in my family for a long time, and my kids will remember this. If my son's watching, he'll especially remember. We used to sit around and about every other week we'd have chocolate cake with Brichetto and de Quay. That's a Brichetto de Quay. So we'd have this this wine. It's a little sweet edge to it, so it worked perfectly with the chocolate. So if you really want to impress your sweetheart, your significant other, whoever it may be, and you want to, and they enjoy chocolates, bring out a little Brichetto de Quay, and they'll be so blown away by this wine. Let's see what we get on the nose. So interesting, it almost has like I get a lot of strawberries with a little like pine sol edge with it, which is really interesting. But a lot of strawberries coming through. I mean, big time strawberry, maybe a little bit of dark cherry. There's almost like a toasted caramel note coming through on the nose. Now this has a little bit of effervescence to it. It's got a little bit of a frizzante, which makes it even more interesting. Let's see what we get on the palate. I love this wine. I forgot to mention the price. It's $20, so it's not like a super budget breaker, but it's very interesting. It has that sweetness. There's a lot of like ripe cherries, ripe strawberries coming through. Makes me want to have that piece of chocolate cake right now. I wish I would have paired it up with chocolate. You know, I could do that in a different episode, I guess. I'd do a chocolate wine pairing. That would be fun. Would any of you like to watch that? Make a comment, let me know. Just comment down below. Would you like to see a chocolate wine pairing episode? One customer came into me yesterday. We talked about my YouTube channel, and he said if he thought about doing a salmon wine pairing episode, because in the Pacific Northwest, of course, salmon's a huge play here. A lot of salmon caught out in the waters, San Juan Islands, and I thought that was a good idea. I don't know. We'll see. Those are tough to do because you have to get the food all ready and kind of go through it. But I'm going to think about it. You make a comment. Make a comment below if you're watching this. Well, you're not going to make a comment if you're not watching it. No, really. Make a comment. I really appreciate it. What do you think? Should I do a few pairing? I did the Super Bowl food and wine pairing. What about a chocolate? What about a salmon pairing? Are you interested? Let me know. All right. No, this Brichetto de Quay is amazing stuff. It needs some sort of a chocolate to go with it. But even by itself, if your significant other is into sweeter wines, they like Riesling, they like Gewürztraminer, they like wines of that nature, this will be a nice surprise for them. It's a little bit more elegant. The sweetness isn't all-encompassing. It has nice balance. I'm not going to really grade this wine. If I were to grade this wine as a sweet wine, I don't like to grade sweet wines because, well, I don't know. It's like grading chocolate. I guess you could. I mean, See's candies are definitely better than Brock's. But I like Brock's too. I mean, when it comes to sweets, it's kind of one of those things. But if I were to grade this wine, let me give it another whirl on the palate. Little cola, little licorice, tons of strawberries, tons of black cherries, beautiful wine. I'm going to go A- on that wine. I think it's a fantastic wine when it comes to sweet wines because it has good balance, not cloying, not over the top, just really good stuff. So remember that, Brichetto de Quay. Let me give you another up on this one. This is Marenco, Brichetto de Quay, Piedmont, $20. Be a great, great little addition to your Valentines celebration. Thanks for watching. And remember, wine is not a mystery. It is just fermented grape juice. Just fermented grape juice. So, be true to your palate. Always remember to be willing to experiment. Don't get stuck in a rut. But never, ever let anybody tell you what you should or shouldn't like. If we do that together, you and I can take the snob out of wine.